After completing the repairs to the wheel arches, it was now time to build up the battery tray on top again. I used the remains of the old part to figure out the location for the support. Ground off the remains of the old arch. The support itself was actually in good condition, so I could use it again. Just ground it around the old spot wells, tore it off, and then flattened them down with a flat wheel on the grinder. Tidied up the last little bits of rust on the surfaces. That's using the wire wheel. And then drilled out the spot wells on the bottom of the support, because I was going to do plug wells in there to mimic the old spot wells. I use my weld-through primer again so that it won't rust between the joins. Just scribing out the spots where I'm going to do the weld so I get a good contact. Handy little magnet I have there for holding those on. Just a couple of plug welds there. Then I came back with the old battery tray. I couldn't even calculate its original width without putting it on the van to make a new one. I got this nice sheet of 300 by 500 steel. It's actually 2mm thick, which is a tiny bit too thick, I'd say, in the end. After cutting through the old metal, I was able to. It was probably 1.5 would have been suitable, but stronger is better anyway. So this will be grand. Just a little bit harder to bend. Drilled these 2 holes, and this is going to be where the little brackets go that bolt on and hold the battery in place. I copied their locations from the original. So just bolting on these 2 nuts just to locate them, and then I'll be able to weld them into place. I'll have to tighten them up. This is good because it also protects the threads while they're held in place from spit from the welder getting inside. That might block them. Nice to be welding on fresh metal. I only had nylock nuts, so the plastic was burning off there. Few little bits to tidy up, get the inside of that curve, and then took all the burrs off the edges as well with a grinding disc. So I used a couple of bits of angle iron in the vise, and yeah, this is showing up the weakness in my bench. Bent it down anyway and hammered the edge in. The other side now as well. The metal hammer hit a better edge. One little bit left to bend up, another flange. Then I could trial fit it and mark up its contact points with the inner wing. I could then remove the epoxy primer from these contact points, which has been protecting these sections from corrosion between jobs. Just cleaning out the the join here, and I'm going to actually use a seam sealant in here. I'm just degreasing that before applying it. They used an awful lot of this in the original. This would be hard to access when the battery tray is in place. I'll probably do more of this afterwards before the final coats. So drilling my holes in the tray. I will plug weld again. Also these ones here, which will be the top of the support that comes up from the inner arch. Cutting off the front support from the original so that I can measure up a replacement. I was fairly mean with my order, but the plate was just about right to give me the tray and this support. You can see there's a really large section of that missing, so it wasn't really worth repairing the original. Cut that one out as well. Bit thick for the tin snips this time. I cut a little bit of this, but obviously couldn't go all the way through or I would have taken off my little flanges. But that made it brittle enough to break it off with the grip. Use the old piece to judge the bend I need. And then actually decided to match it up to the tray. Great to have the bench drill because there was a lot of these little plug weld holes to drill out. This is where that front support will meet the tray. These are a couple on the leading edge of that front support, and the panel that they're going into was non-existent and was one of the first things that I rebuilt. Well, through primer then on the contact surfaces of both pieces. Decided the plug welds I'd done here were a little bit high and that they would restrict how flush the panel would fit, so I ground them down with a flat wheel and then added me primer again. Using all these clamps to hold it together, I clipped it into place there. Had to again just scribed inside the plug holes to make good contact and started my little welds. I ground off these ones on the top of the support flush so that the battery has a flat surface to go on. Did a couple in each of the areas just to get it all located well. Little fire there. I checked them underneath as well to make sure that the heat was penetrating right through the two pieces. Starting to come together now. Last few along the front here. Time to test it out. That'll be a big battery. Little trim here so I don't have a nasty edge to catch batteries. I know from experience what it's like when you're loading them in a battery, a big heavy battery, over the front panel and down, you need to put them on the edge first and then slide them into place. So I cleaned those down as well, because again, don't want to burst the underside of the battery or anything. I'm using 400 grit sandpaper there to rough up the epoxy primer from before. It's been on the van too long to take an overcoat without a bit of abrasion first, and this time I'm remembering to degrease everything before I add any paint. So just mixing up, this is a 1-to-1 mix, 100ml of Noval Protect 360 epoxy primer and 100ml of hardener. Same as before, I'm actually going to use the same amount again because there's actually quite a bit of surface area with the top bottom of the tray, and also I'm going to cover those bits under the inner arch where I made that final repair to close it off after the initial painting. So that's the end of those repairs underneath. Haven't a lot of paint in the gun, so when it's at an angle it was struggling a bit. So that's my battery tray replacement and under arch repairs.